Tried and True, a Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction. This is the fourth and final part of the Telltale Heart series, a 4-part series that explores all 4 sides of the love square. Part 1 was called A Stolen Moment, Part 2 was My Dear Friend, and Part 3 was Right Hand Man. If you missed any of them, I've put links in the description box, or you can click on the card in the upper right corner of this video for the playlist. I hope you enjoy the story. Marinette de-transformed behind a column at the Trocadero with seconds to spare, and Tiki slipped into her purse to devour the cookies hidden there and take a quick cat nap. Or bug nap? It was a little past 5 in the morning, and the sun hadn't fully risen yet. The horizon was barely tinted with pale orange, accented with a smattering of purple-blue clouds. There was no one around, not even Mr. Ramier. Marinette could probably count on one hand the number of times she'd been awake this early. But rather than being exhausted, she felt unexpectedly energized. The Akuma fight had been a rude awakening, but it had gotten her blood pumping. She felt good. She stretched her arms over her head and took a deep breath of the fresh morning air. Must be nice to be a morning person. In case she didn't have time to go back home before class, Marinette had thrown on her day clothes before transforming. But now she had time to spare, so she decided to linger for a moment before heading to school. She loved the Trocadero, and it had a different feel, muted by dawn's blanket of solitary silence. She hoisted herself onto the low stone wall overlooking the Eiffel Tower and stretched her legs ballet style. The fight against an akumatized architect who had missed an early morning flight had been vexing. The Akuma's power to redraw the floor plans kept her and Cat Noir running in circles until a lucky charm helped them escape into the open with no buildings to manipulate. From that point on, it had been child's play to grab hold of the boarding pass and rip it. Cat Noir hadn't even needed to use Cataclysm. Cat Noir seemed to have returned to his usual behavior with a flurry of architecture puns that morning. Marinette smiled affectionately, thinking about it. Though her pride wouldn't let her admit it to his face, she felt more powerful with Cat Noir at her side, alternating taunts at the enemy with lame pickup lines. Tag-teaming with her confident jokester partner gave her the same rush she felt when defeating someone in video games, 10 times over. She didn't want him to change, and was glad to have him back to normal. "What brings you out here, princess?" "Cat Noir. Didn't he go the other way?" Marinette turned to find him perched some ways down the wall. That's right, he didn't need to transform back right away. Still, she was a little surprised to see he had chosen to hang out in the catsuit after hours. "I went on an early walk. I like to come here for design inspiration." "Thinking about designs before sunrise? Don't you need your beauty sleep?" "Sometimes I like to get up early." Cat Noir stifled a laugh. Marinette crossed her arms. "What?" "Nothing, princess." That name again. "Why do you call me that?" Cat Noir cocked his head to regard her with a lazy expression, very cat-like for someone who wasn't really a cat. Marinette wondered what he was thinking. "In fairy tales, the prince is always drawn to the princess." Marinette snorted. "Are you saying you're a prince?" "Well, I am the protagonist of my own life." "Fair enough." "And for some reason, you've always caught my attention." "I thought you only had eyes for Ladybug." Cat Noir smirked. "You were my Ladybug for a day, remember?" "What a flirt." Marinette sent Cat Noir an exasperated look. "What would Ladybug think if she saw you flirting with random civilians?" Cat Noir slunk over to Marinette on all fours. It was funny how much he acted like a cat with the Miraculous activated. Marinette wondered why. She didn't exactly crawl around like a bug. Maybe he just liked acting in character. Rather than stopping at a normal distance, Cat Noir crept right up into Marinette's personal space and took her chin in his hand. His eyes narrowed as if inspecting her. "You seem very concerned about me being loyal to Ladybug." Marinette's cheeks heated up. "I'm not," she said defensively. "You're a role model, Cat Noir. Loyalty is a respectable trait. Your respect does mean a lot to me. I meant for the public. Cat Noir's hand was still on Marinette's chin, and she felt uncomfortable. The thought of Cat Noir flirting with people other than Ladybug was annoying for some reason, and she had let her feelings surface. That was a mistake. She was worried she'd let something slip. She tugged away slightly, and Cat Noir let his hand fall, settling back on his heels to hug his knees, sitting beside Marinette. Anyway, Princess, Cat said softly, letting the previous topic slide. I thought I made it clear that you're not just a random civilian. What's so special about me? Cat Noir took a moment to respond, but when he did, it was a question. Do you know how to spell love? Marinette gave him a wary look. What's your point? T-I-M-E. She rolled her eyes. That is so cheesy. And what does that have to do with anything? It's not the first time you've taken the time to chat with me for no reason. I'm just saying, I appreciate that. His voice was sincere. Marinette couldn't help but smile at this glimpse of her partner's sensitive side. Well, could it be that I'm the only one you've tried to chat with? I'm sure there are plenty of people who'd be delighted to have a chat with one of Paris's famous superheroes. Cat Noir shrugged, a smirk playing at his lips. I'm not just a superhero. I'm a normal guy. You're the only one who treats me like one. He turned around to gaze out across the Eiffel Tower. The sun was starting to rise, illuminating the tower in a hazy glow. He leaned back on one arm, with a leg propped up on the wall. A seemingly relaxed pose, but by now Marinette was good at reading his body language, and she could tell he was tense. What are you doing here anyway, Cat Noir? Don't you have somewhere to be? I'd rather be here, he answered, without looking at her. Marinette wondered what kind of life Cat Noir led. She never asked about his personal life, and she didn't want to. But comments like that, which she had noticed him drop now and then, clued her in that he was lonely. She wanted to stay and keep him company longer, but she felt wary, especially after the conversation they had had yesterday, where he suggested again that they might know each other outside the masks. It wasn't the first time he had mentioned it. Marinette didn't want to consider the possibility. She knew her overactive mind. Once she started following a trail of breadcrumbs, she couldn't stop. And she was afraid that if she did know him, it would be all too easy to figure out his identity without even trying. So she preferred not to think about it at all. She recognized that even making small talk could inadvertently lead to more clues being exchanged, and their conversation had already gone on much longer than she felt comfortable with, so she hopped off the wall to be on her way. Cat Noir turned to her, and she caught a panicked expression before he trained his features. Where are you going, Princess? School. Isn't it too early? I have a bit of a walk. Nice seeing you, Cat Noir. She walked away, but Cat Noir followed her, walking along the wall. Where are you going? I told you. To school. Cat Noir kept pace with her. No, you're not. I know where you go to school. Right. He knew where Marinette went to school. She had been walking in the opposite direction to throw him off, as was a habit when she was Ladybug parting ways with him. She sighed and changed direction. He did too. She shot him a look of mock surprise. A great superhero is escorting me to school? My school is this way too. Don't tell me where your school is. Marinette expected a retort, but Cat Noir kept following her in silence. She snuck a glance at him. His hands were behind his back, and he was looking at his feet with a troubled expression. She hesitated between staying silent or saying something. Her concern for her partner won out. Cat Noir, is something... Suddenly, Cat Noir jumped in front of Marinette. Whoa, what are you doing, Cat? He placed both hands on her shoulders, deadly serious. Marinette, I have to be honest. There's something I need to tell you. Please don't be mad. She gave him a quizzical look. What? Why would I be mad? His voice was barely a whisper. I know why you're here. Marinette felt a chill go through her body. She glanced around. There was no one around them. What do you mean? The Okuma fight. Marinette's insides turned to lead. The air felt thick. What? Cat Noir's inhuman, glowing green eyes seemed to pierce her soul. I know, you're a ladybug. Marinette's ears were ringing. Her hands were clammy. What? How? Where did I go wrong? She stared at him in shock, replaying the morning's events in her mind to identify her mistake. Suddenly, everything Cat Noir had said to her made sense, which was more scary than reassuring. She clung to the comfort of playing innocent. Me? Ladybug? I'm not... I'm serious. Marinette dropped the act, deflating. The plan A, plan B, plan C, and so on that she had prepared in case someone guessed her identity went out the window. There was no use in lying to her partner. Did you see me detransform? Her lips felt clumsy. Had she been too careless? Where did she slip? No. Then how? Cat Noir opened and closed his mouth a few times as if unsure how to start. It was an accident. A few silent moments passed. Marinette stared at Cat Noir, feeling cornered. The miraculous earring suddenly felt flimsy and small, easy to pluck out of her earlobes. Anger flickered in her heart. She knew Cat Noir had always wanted to know who was under Ladybug's mask. Didn't he understand how important it was to keep their identities secret? Now the secret was out. I warned you, she said in a quiet, tense voice. I told you not to pry. Hot tears pricked the corners of her eyes. Cat Noir's intense gaze softened, and he removed his hand from her shoulders. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to find out. Weren't you, though? Marinette snapped. Okay, I was, but I tried to stop. I'm sorry. Marinette sighed in frustration. And now it's too late. This is what she had been afraid of. It was a nightmare. Her face contorted and tears streamed down her cheeks uncontrollably. She was shaking. Her hands had balled into fists. As Ladybug, she could handle danger, but now she felt vulnerable as a civilian. The secret was out. She didn't have control over it anymore. What if others found out? What if Hawkmoth hurt Cat Noir to make him spill Ladybug's identity? Would she constantly be looking over her shoulder? Bar her windows in case someone tried to steal the miraculous in her sleep? Would her family be in danger? What if the Akuma had a blowtorch that could melt iron, or could pass through walls like Troublemaker? It was to keep us safe, Cat Noir. This isn't a game. I'm just a kid. We're just kids. I'm so sorry, milady. I made a mistake. But we will be okay. Please, trust me with your secret. It's not you that I don't trust, Marinette choked out. Don't you understand? Tears flowed from Marinette's eyes again as the thought loomed in her mind. If Hawkmoth finds out, if I lose my miraculous, if there's no Ladybug, I can't reverse the damage. People can die, buildings can be ruined, everything will be a mess. I can't bring you back, and Hawkmoth's wish... Marinette. Cat Noir cut her off firmly. He lifted up her face with both hands, thumbs on her cheeks. Right now, the only people who know are you and me. and I will do everything in my power to keep it that way." Marinette turned to the side, avoiding his eyes and breaking contact with his hands. Everything was all messed up. She felt betrayed and disappointed. If he had understood why they kept their identities secret and respected that, this would have never happened. She made a dash toward an alcove in the side of a building. Opening her purse, she saw Tiki's big blue eyes staring up at her in concern. "Marinette! Tiki, spots on!" She transformed and swung home, and Cat Noir let her go. Marinette was distracted that day in school. She was running through her archives of memories, trying to figure out how Cat Noir could have guessed her identity. Had she given him a clue somehow? She felt stupid. Honestly, it was so easy to talk to him that she couldn't remember everything that she said to him. But she didn't think that she had given him any details about her life. Was it the jagged stone comment? Couldn't be. Millions of people love jagged stone, and not only in France. Having finished with classes, Marinette retreated to the art room to take refuge in designing. Setting into a rolling stool, she stationed herself at the corner of a large table and hunched over her sketchbook. She had only sketched out a few lines before her mind started spiraling off again into a train of paranoid speculation. She slumped over, burying her head in her arms in distress. "Oh, what should I do? Should I bring my Miraculous back to Master Fu so he can choose a new ladybug?" "Hey, Marinette?" Nathaniel's voice cut into her thoughts. She looked up, rubbing her forehead in case she had a red mark. "Adrian's outside. He was looking for you." Marinette's stomach fluttered. "Oh, okay. Thanks, Nathaniel." She got up and came to the door. She had been so preoccupied by her thoughts that she had actually almost forgotten about Adrian. Had she said hi to him yet that day? Ugh, I'm a terrible friend. Adrian was waiting outside the door, fiddling with the strap of his bag. He looked worried. "Hey, Marinette," he said as soon as she appeared. "Hi, Adrian. What's up?" "Oh, I was just worried about you. You seemed a little out of it today." Suddenly, Marinette remembered how Adrian had come to her door last night looking pale and spooked, mentally hitting herself for forgetting to check on him and ask how he was. The morning encounter with Cat Noir had really thrown her off. "I'm fine," she answered quickly. "But what about you? You didn't look well last night. I'm sorry I didn't ask earlier. I guess I was a little out of it." "I'm fine," he reassured her. "Hey, did you do your research for the history project yet?" "Not yet." "Want to do it together?" Marinette smiled, glad for her diversion from the ladybug crisis. She could indulge in a happy moment with Adrian and worry about it later. The library was quiet except for the sounds of camera clicks and styluses tapping against tablets as Marinette and Adrian made scans and notes from various books for their history projects. Each student had a different topic, so they didn't have much to discuss together, but it was nice to work in solidarity. Marinette couldn't help but sneak glances at Adrian now and then, and she noticed him doing the same. There was a melancholy look in his eyes, and it seemed like he wanted to say something, but was shy to start. "Are you thinking about that girl?" Marinette asked, finally. "Huh? Adrian looked conflicted. "Kind of? Why?" "You looked sad." "Oh." Adrian's lips smiled, but his eyes didn't. "I'm not, don't worry." Rather than prying, Marinette just said, "Okay," patting one of his hands. If he didn't want to talk about it, it was fine. He turned over his hand, offering his palm to her. Marinette's heart flipped. He had never done anything like that before, usually just accepting whatever comforting gesture she gave him. Hesitantly, she placed her fingers in his palm, and he curled his hand around hers. "Marinette, I'm here to listen to you too, if something's bothering you." His words surprised her. She didn't realize he could tell and didn't expect him to comfort her. "Well..." What could she even say, though? She sighed. Friends confided in each other, right? She wanted Adrian to know she trusted him, too. She thought for a moment, then said carefully, "Have you ever trusted someone, then they betrayed your trust?" Adrian looked away quickly, and she felt the hand she was holding shake. Wet droplets appeared on the table. "Adrian, what's wrong?" Marinette said, alarmed at his reaction. Had he misunderstood her? "I didn't mean you." "I know." Adrian wiped his eyes furtively with his free hand. "I was just reminded of something personal." His voice sounded stiff. It was a moment before he spoke again. "Did they mean to betray you?" "No." As Marinette answered, her chest felt lighter, as if she were realizing that herself. It had been a mistake. Maybe they could work through this, like everything else. Maybe she didn't have to give up her Miraculous. Maybe the two of them could keep the secret. She looked up at Adrian with a shy smile. "You know what, Adrian?" "Yeah?" "Don't ask me how, but that actually helped." "Really? But I didn't even say anything." Nonetheless, he gave her a brilliant smile that further lightened her worries. They spent the rest of the research session making funny faces at each other over stacks of books. Later that day, Marinette was stitching at her desk, worrying. She was feeling better about the situation, but the fear of what might happen if her identity ever made its way back to Hawkmoth was gnawing at her gut like a cancer. She would have to give Cat Noir another talk about the importance of secrecy. She finished off the seam she was sewing, cut the thread, and clicked off the sewing machine. Feeling too turmoiled to sit and work quietly, she ascended to her loft and clambered out the trap door onto her balcony. Leaning against the rail and gazing out on the beautiful city she had been tasked to protect, she pondered transforming into Ladybug and going to find Cat Noir. They needed to talk. They needed to fix this hiccup and get back into fighting form as soon as possible. A blur of black surprised her, and suddenly Cat Noir was perched on a high ledge over her balcony, looking at her with contrite eyes. "Wow, kitty, you're here already? Were you nearby?" "Yeah, I can leave if you want me to." He curled in on himself, ears drooping. "Relax, kitty. I was about to go looking for you anyway." He perked up. "Really?" "Yes. I'm sorry for running away. I just needed some time." Cat Noir nodded and jumped down from the ledge to stand beside Marinette. "I'm sorry," he said, taking her hand in both of his. The words were heavy with sincerity. Marinette sighed and patted his hands with her free one. "It's okay. It was an accident, and it's not the end of the world." "You forgive me?" "Yes. But kitty." Her tone grew firm. "Yes?" "First of all, you can't visit me at home like this. People will notice and wonder why you keep visiting a civilian. We really have to be extra careful and not let Hawkmoth get the idea that you know my civilian identity." "This is the last time. Cat's honor," Cat replied with one hand held up. "This is not a joke." "I'm not joking." "Secondly, we are at war right now with the forces of evil. This is deadly serious, Cat. You have to be more careful. No more accidents." Cat stifled a laugh. "Cat Noir, did you not hear what I said?" "I'm sorry, milady. You're just cute when you act so intense, especially as a civilian." Marinette scowled. "And no calling me that when I'm not Ladybug." Cat Noir had to stifle another laugh. "Okay." "Hey," Marinette shoved him a little. "Stop it, we're having a serious conversation." Yes, ma'am." Cat Noir saluted her. Marinette crossed her arms and just looked at him until he sobered up. "That's better." "Sorry, I'm just happy that you forgave me." He grinned sheepishly. Marinette couldn't help but smile despite herself. He was cute. He went on. Don't worry, I understand. I'll protect our secret with my life. Our secret. Marinette liked the sound of that. Thank you, Kitty. By the way, what gave me away? A lot of little things. But don't worry. Cat Noir was quick to reassure her concerns that everyone could tell she was Ladybug. He knew her. It's because we're closer than you think. What do you mean? Did they know each other? Cat Noir became quiet. I won't tell you if you don't want me to. Marinette understood. He meant his identity. He stepped away from her to lean against the rail, looking out, trying to appear nonchalant. Marinette noticed his cheeks were a little pink under the mask. Kitty? Joining him on the rail, she leaned into him and turned his face to look at her. He avoided her eyes. Look at me. His eyes flicked up to meet hers, iridescent green. His cheeks reddened more, and he bit his lip nervously. Are you going to suffer if you don't? He cleared his throat and his voice came out husky. Maybe. Marinette hid her smile. She couldn't help playing with him. His reactions were so funny. Leaving his side, she went over to her trapdoor and opened it, motioning for him to follow her. He cocked his head questioningly, then followed. They dropped down the hatch onto Marinette's bed. With her knees curled under her, Marinette patted the bed, motioning for Cat to sit across from her. He did so. Her tone was gentle, but her eyes were firm. It's important for us to trust each other. We're stronger if we're in this together. I don't want you to suffer alone. If you're the only one holding a secret, Hawkmoth can use that against us too. So, it's okay. You can tell me if you want. We'll just be careful. Very careful. Cat Noir took a deep breath and let it out slowly. He seemed relieved, but nervous. Thank you. He twisted his belt around a finger nervously. Well, I can tell you one thing. I was right. You are amazing, superhero or not. She rolled her eyes but waited patiently, letting him decide what to do next. Was he going to de-transform? Would she recognize him, or would she meet a stranger in her bed? Her stomach clenched in anxiety. Didn't I say you were an everyday ladybug? Your awesomeness couldn't be contained by a mask. Marinette's eyes widened. The only person she had ever heard say that was Adrien. She remembered clearly because she had been afraid for a split second that he had figured out her alter ego. You never said that to me, she whispered in disbelief. Yes, I did. He looked at her with a deep gaze. She thought about the boy with the umbrella, the moment she looked in his eyes and realized she had misjudged him. It was the same look. And you kissed my cheek. She gasped. She was almost afraid to speak, in case she was wrong. Adrien. Yeah, it's me. Prove it. Claws in. The green light faded, and there was Adrien, sitting cross-legged on her bed. A small black blob with ears and whiskers hovered at his side, tiny arms crossed. Finally! Tiki, who had come out as soon as Cat Noir de-transformed, shook her head and motioned for Plague to follow her. Introductions later. The two zipped off to a corner of Marinette's room. Adrien's cheeks were flushed, and he fiddled nervously with the hairs at the base of his neck. That was my Kwame, Plague. Marinette let out a laugh of disbelief, hearing Adrien talk about Kwames. All this time, it was you? Is it weird? He had a lopsided grin. It's wonderful. All the fear and uneasiness Marinette had been feeling vanished in an instant, to realize that her partner, whom she trusted with her life, her ally against the world, The one who could practically read her mind was this precious boy she had thought was a world apart from her. To realize the two of them were closer than she could have imagined, existing in a space separate from the rest of humanity, bearing this secret and responsibility together. To realize that the one she pined after from a distance had already been right by her side the whole time. She felt like a light had turned on in a hidden compartment of her heart, and giddy joy blossomed, filling her whole body with warmth. She lunged forward and hugged him tightly. She felt hesitant arms wrap around her back in return. "You're my kitty."
"Your kitty?"
"Yes, my silly kitten. I can't believe you could act so ridiculous." Adrien laughed.
"Ridiculous?
You're such a flirt."
"Only with you,"
Adrien said quietly. Marinette blushed.
"I didn't mean to betray you. I'm really sorry."
Marinette pulled away to look at him. His cheeks were flushed and his eyes hooded, looking remorseful. "You already apologized and I forgave you. And I understand now. So many things I said could have given me away. It was my fault for being careless." She laughed. "The last thing I thought was for it to be you under the mask." Adrien caught her eye, smiling faintly. He still looked sorry. Wanting to put his concerns at rest, Marinette tackled him into a hug, knocking him over into the bed. "I said it's okay. Stop worrying. Hawkmoth doesn't know anything yet. We're going to figure this out together." Adrien let out a breathless laugh of relief. Marinette felt his hands in her hair and a kiss dropped on her head.
"Always so optimistic. That's why I love you."
Marinette's cheeks burned, and she buried her face in Adrien's shirt. It was the first time he had said that to her as Marinette. "You what?" His chest vibrated as he spoke.
"I love you, Marinette."
Marinette squeezed her eyes shut and hugged Adrien tighter. When Cat Noir had uttered the dreadful confession that morning that he knew she was Ladybug, her world had crumbled around her. She never would have expected that the same day she would be here, hugging the boy she loved and feeling closer to him than she ever had to another human being in her life. "I love you too," she breathed, and felt his arms tighten around her.
"Didn't I tell you?
"Hmm?"
The prince is always drawn to the princess."
"You didn't even notice me at first."
"Yes, I did. You're the one who didn't want to be my friend at first."
Marinette recalled the bubblegum incident and giggled. "What was I supposed to think? You were friends with Chloe."
"Don't be so quick to judge, milady."
"What did I say about the nickname?"
"There's no one here but us."
Marinette smiled, feeling at peace. "You might develop a bad habit," she said languidly. She moved away slightly so she could see Adrien's face. Blonde locks framed his soft expression, spilled out across her pink pillow.
"How could I, with such a good role model by my side?"
They stayed like that for a long time, talking about everything and nothing. They were, for the most part, two normal teenagers, and they were allowed to do this, allowed to exist together like this. The rest, they could figure out later. Hey everyone, thank you for listening to the Telltale Heart series. I hope you liked it. Though this series has come to a close, I'll be posting more Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction and animations in the future, so be sure to follow this channel for updates. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below or leave a like to show your support. Until later, take care!